So we got this guy who shares experience as an ugly man, as a below average looking man, and he talks about how women do not look at him, how women they ignore him, how women don't hug him. For example, like in a situation where they're hugging everybody, and he's the last person to be hugged, they kind of like skip him or they just like shake hands with him because of his appearance, because of how ugly he is. And I thought to myself, like, damn, this guy must be like, he must look, I don't know, deformed, right? He must be like 2 out of 10, right? He must look, I don't know, he must have an insane absence of attractiveness. There must be not a single woman in this world that finds this man attractive. And then I realized that this guy has a second channel and where he actually shows his face. So in
Fine.
this video, he talks about how bad it is for him, how bad his situation is, how bad the situation for sub 5 male is, in the looks scale. And I do agree with that. I feel like I mean, we all know that life as an ugly man, life as a short guy, bald or whatever, all of those flaws, even like especially if they add up, the harder it becomes, right? The harder your dating life becomes. So
I was kind of attractive back in the day when I was a teenager.
he talks about how women used to look at him, more give more like visual contact and stuff like that, which is truly, I feel like most of the times it tends to be a sign that you are attractive if you have women making eye contact with you.
As servers are being rude
And then
to
it talks
you.
about he talks about here's the turning point, honestly, for me, where the the uh, the narrative shifts a little bit. He talks about how the employees, people who work with customer service, I don't know, behind a counter, behind clerks, for example, you're about to order a coffee or anything, and the employee they treat you badly, they mistreat you, right? They don't even answer to you, they don't even say good morning or anything. Which honestly, he blames that on his lack of attractiveness, on the fact that he's ugly. But honestly, man, that's just a personal experience that many people go through. And me as I would consider myself as an average guy, average looking. I'm not like clavicular, nor I am like, I don't know, hideous, you know. But the thing is, you can't take that experience and justify it based on your looks. Because as he said in the video, they might be having a bad day, or it's just the fact that they are rude. They have just a shitty personality. If you not reply good morning just because the person behind the counter is not attractive, what the hell is that? What kind of mannerism is that, right? And he talks about, I mean, what else does he talk about? How if women ask you if you're single, I mean, I think it's a little bullshit. Honestly, if women ask you if you're single, I mean, why you're single, then it's a sign that not necessarily it's a sign that you're attractive, but if women do not ask you that, then it's a sign that you are ugly. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about interest. If she shows interest in you, then it's probably because you're attractive or you have at least something that it is of her interest. But he tries to justify, all of his bad experience, all of his bad interactions with people, which honestly, to me, it seems more like it's due to being a neurodivergent. Because when you're neurotypical, if even if you're slightly below average, I know that life as a below average man must be really difficult, especially if you're bald. And I mean, like, I'm sorry, women do not like bald men. I mean, yeah, it's just the way it is. Or if you're short, or if these flaws they add up, the harder your dating life will be, and you have to compensate for that. Oh, and there's another thing he says. He says that when you're attractive, people tend to assume that you're funny, which honestly for me is totally the opposite from the reality. The reality tells me completely the opposite. Most of the comedians that makes in the industry, that makes a living out of that in the industry, they're not attractive. They're not like, looks maxing demigods. They're not, right? It tends to be the opposite. Look at Kevin Hart, for example. Of course, you have to compensate with your career, with your accomplishments, with your IQ, or with your personality for the lack of beauty. But it's just the way it works, bro. Honestly, it's just the way it works. Like, you gotta max out the attributes which you can work on, right? And if you're not blessed with looks, then you gotta work with something else. And Kevin Hart is a perfect example of that. The dude is like 5'3". I don't know. Like, imagine being a man as a 5'3", and he made in the Hollywood industry. Of course, he made it as a clown. That is the brutal reality of it. Like, usually, like ugly guys, they have to compensate for their lack of attractiveness. With being funny, they have to be fun. They have to be witty. They have to go like they have to throw good jokes at the function. They have to be the funny guy at the function, right? So that is reality for me. That is what I see. That is what I observe. I don't observe like handsome guys, like very attractive guys trying to be the funny one. They don't have to. And people don't really assume that they're funny. It's usually the ugly guy who's perceived as funny. I don't know, maybe his face, there's something about his face that, or maybe about his height, about his overall appearance that is a flaw, but he actually uses that as an advantage in order to be funnier, right? And the thing is, well, there's some contradiction, honestly, and in his narrative and his experience. I would say that most of it is because of he's probably neurodivergent, or seriously, like neurotypical normies, neurotypical people, even if they're just like below average looking, they still can kind of like cope with it uh elsewhere. They can cope with it with the personality, they can cope with it and not really attribute everything to the way they look, right? So I know it's brutal. I'm not trying to cope. It's just that when I look into his other channel, I realized that, I found out he has another channel.
That ended up
It turns out that he looks like this. I was expecting the guy to look like completely deformed, to look like, I don't know, Gollum from, Lord of the Rings. But it turns out that he looks like this,
being
which looks like a completely normal fella, honestly. He's like a completely normal guy.
pretty
I don't get it.
at, and I know it's
I don't
not
get
just
it.
the organization I
Like, he looks normal. He's white. He seems to be tall, right? And honestly, for me, he's just like, it might be his personal experience. I'm not trying to deny his personal experience, what he has with women. I know that the dating world, the dating, life is tough in US, especially in US. It's a really complicated competition, but you got like guys who are below average looking, who look like inferior to him looks wise, who are actually clapping cheeks at the moment we speak, at the moment I'm talking. There's guys like who probably has the same, financial status as him, who are probably shorter, who are probably inferior looks wise, and they're banging chicks. Okay, so this guy, he looks complete. Honestly,
doing it for
if he ditched the glasses, maybe like he could. I know the glasses, like, is it? I don't really have the position to talk about that, right? But I'm just trying to like observe from a positive perspective, from an improvement perspective. Maybe the beard. I don't know about his hair. I don't know if he's bald, but it's just that I don't know. This guy looks like completely normal. He seems to be tall too. Like, look at those shoulders. This dude is probably like 6'2", or I mean 6'2" at least, I would say. Looks like 6'4", kind of a frame, So that mere fact already fixes a bunch of things. That mere fact can compensate for a bunch of things. So I don't truly get how I feel like this guy's actually just doing content over, content around being ugly. He realizes there's like a demand for that, and he's just feeding it. You know, he's just doing what the algorithm wants. But it's just that, yeah. There's another video of him like he has a mask on. Like, I know that it might sound like cope. It might sound like uncope, but this guy, he looks normal. He's white. He probably has light eyes, slim nose, broad shoulders. He's probably 6'2" and taller. And he blames all of his bad experiences with women, all of his bad experience, interactions like social life, on the fact that he's ugly. This guy is not ugly. This guy's not, he does not look ugly.
anything.
I mean, I don't know about his jaw. I don't know. I'm not going to go like too autistic on this. Oh, you need to fix your IPD, interpupillary distance, like clavicular does. It's just that he doesn't seem to be the kind of guy who's mocked for being ugly or for being short. Like, look at his frame. Look at this guy's frame. You know, he just looks normal and actually tall. So that is the thing. I feel like because like when you listen to this video, you go like, damn, this guy must like look deformed, right? He must be like 5'2" and must be overweight, and I don't know, he must be deformed. Like, poor guy, you know, 2 out of 10 in the look scale. It turns out that he looks normal. He's white. He could slay in East Asia, you know, in Southeast Asia. And you might say, oh, but you have to go down. I mean, American women, they're so demanding. They're so demanding. They're so selective. Like, demanding for 6 foot and above guys on Tinder is an example of that. So you should go where you actually have success, where you actually have an advantage, you know? So it's not just Asia actually. And it's not even just about it's not about the money too, because of course that, you know, people from third world countries, they tend to associate Americans with money. You know, American guys, they have money and they're bringing money and everything. But it's just that he wouldn't really have to like flex money for these girls to be within. So I feel like most of it is actually justified with personality, although it might seem like, oh, I'm trying to be blue pilled or I'm trying to cope. It's just that personality is also not something that it's not a thing that you can not really change that much, just like looks. So it's not truly coping. It's also a kind of like black pill fact, right? If you're neurodivergent, I'm not saying that it's over. It's just that you're probably going to struggle a little bit more with social interactions, with a social life, developing a social life, or talking to women and stuff like that, compared to people who are like neurotypical, right? At the function, you're probably going to be the guy who stands at the corners. I am that guy. But I just try to emulate some kind of like neurotypical behavior, which is easy for me. I just like had to take a step down, you know, because you just pay attention to what they talk about, what kind of conversations they bring to the table, you know, and you just not trying to say like you put a mask on. It's just that if you try to be the deep guy or the guy who's like, oh, you know, everything. Here's another thing: like when this kind of person, like, oh, it hurts me, you know, you carry this kind of like remorse for things. It gives me the feeling that you care way too much about yourself. You're way too stuck. You're wasting way too much time. You're dwelling way too much upon yourself and upon what others are thinking of you. Like, that is my conclusion. You care way too much about yourself. You like yourself way too much, actually. Because neurotypical people, they don't have that. They have the inner monologue, but not as much as neurodivergent people, and who honestly, I feel like this guy's LARPing, honestly. Or yeah, if you take a look at the comments, yeah, he looks normal. He looks normal. Not saying he's like, not saying he's attractive, not saying he's a Chad again, but you don't have to be a Chad in order to succeed in life, in overall with women, in order to bang chicks. You don't have to be a Chad. That is a thing. I'm not trying to deny saying that, oh, being handsome. Of course, all of these things are like attributes that will add up to your overall chances of being successful with women in life in overall, period. But the thing is, this dude is 6'3". Look at this. Yeah. Doesn't have anything to complain about, like looks wise, right? This guy hits the gym. Damn. He would have like women drooling for him. I truly know that. I can definitely say that. Yeah, he's probably bald. I get that. Yeah, maybe, but maybe some like hair transplant, right? It's just that he doesn't look that bad. That is the thing. He doesn't look bad to begin with. He looks normal. He looks average. And guess what? Most of people are average, right? Because that's what average stands for, right? That is it. If only Chaz made it, then we would go around. You probably go out and you would see hot women only with Chaz. But that's not what we see. We see lots of like attractive women actually with not that much, you know, guys who are not really on the same level as the girls, looks wise, right? A girl who's like 8 out of 10, and the guy is, I don't know, 5 out of 10. The guy is an average dude, and he's probably compensating with status or personality maxing, right? or I don't know, dick, right? Dick size, because that truly matters too. As much as some people try to deny that, it does matter. And that's it. That's my take on it. I don't buy this. Maybe, and if all of these stories are real, then it's probably because he's neurodivergent. Because I know people who are, I know it might be like just, you know, uh, I don't know, it's not that valid. It's not that um, smart to use the example of someone who I know, oh, I know a short guy who's actually successful with women, you know, but still, I'm not talking about just a few. I know a bunch of people who are like that. They don't have the same success as Chaz does. Of course, it's mathematics. It's like simple, but still, this guy is probably, yeah. I'll blame it. I'll blame it on being like not capable of emulating sort of like social kind of social interaction. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's it. Honestly, I think it's Larpy. Pretty much it. Yeah. Give me hit the subscribe button. Leave it a like. Peace and out.